Welcome back to Germani Fanfic Fanatics. You're here with Tracy, Holly, and Carrie Ann, and today we are going to be talking about the fic Call It What You Want by HawthorneWhisperer. This is only on AO3, but it's not locked, so you can read it without an AO3 account, which is so funny because I was trying to find it earlier today and had the hardest time and thought that I had to have an account, but it doesn't show the lock symbol, so it may just be
user error.
Yeah, I don't know what it was earlier, but it's 14 chapters. It is completed, 35,965 words. Tracy actually said this in a message earlier to us. The chapters are pretty short, so it feels like you are reading faster because the chapters aren't very long. So if that's something that you're into, this is the
It
way
helped
to go.
me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, let's get into it. I liked this was one that I had read before you guys had read.
Mm-hmm. It was great. I really liked it. It was cute.
And it's
cute.
funny.
Short and sweet.
You would think from the description that there would be a lot more smut in this, but they're really...
I know, it's a rated M, and I was like, this has so much potential to be very explicit.
It could have been so smutty. And there is smut. It's not like there's none.
Yeah.
But like you compare it to Bring Him to His Knees, where it's like I feel like every single chapter there was some kind of smut. And this one had maybe, 3 smut scenes?
But you know, I feel like you get like a whole story with this though.
Yeah.
With how short it is,
Yeah, it has
how well-rounded the story was. I thought they did a really good job. I mean, you get everything. You get the smut, you get the happiness, you get the angst. It was all there.
There was even
an epilogue.
You get meddling friends.
Yep.
Well, there was also,
it was all there.
There's also, or at least according to like the notes at the end, I didn't check them. There's explicit scenes available
Oh.
on her AO3.
This is part of a series. Call It What You Want.
Gotcha.
And there is 2 other, they're one-shots. Both of them are Hermione and Draco. The first one falls between chapters 5 and 6, and the second one falls between chapter 13 and the epilogue. So you get a little bit more, but I haven't read them. I will be honest.
I
didn't read
either.
them.
I know. That's how I'm feeling right now.
But there are more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some one-shots to kind of continue on the story.
Nice. Never a bad thing.
Exactly.
I like that all of our big tropes are introduced immediately in chapter 1 of you.
Forced proximity.
Harry's like, you're willing to take on this project with Malfoy? Of course. You'll be living in the same place, for how long? 6 weeks? I can't remember how long.
A month, and then it changed.
Yep. In an unplottable place. So
exactly.
Bring it on.
Unplottable place?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Some fics have that where there's like an area of land that's unplottable. I don't know what it means either. I figured like you can't apparate there or...
Oh, okay. I was like,
I don't know if that's actually the case though.
I just kind of thought it would acted the same as like is it the Fidelis, where it's like you can't find it?
Charm,
yeah,
maybe.
You can't find it. It's unplottable because you can't find it. That's
like
why
you
I
have to get there by maybe natural means.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of how I take it, because it appears in a lot of different fics. Like this place is unplottable.
I guess I've just never paid attention.
Well, and I have, but I've never really like...
You just read it,
put much thought,
and then go on,
Yep.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I like that it's a dual point of view. Always appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just Googled it because I have a problem. And on Reddit, the first thing that pops up is, I don't understand something. How was it was talking about like unplottable is just that it can't be on a map, and somebody said where was it? Where the heck Oh, I just saw it. Unplottable means you can't put the location of a building on a map.
Huh.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it makes it impossible for wizards or muggles to plot its location on a map. Or even find it if they go looking.
So maybe it
Okay.
has all the muggle repellent charms, and then
Yeah. Okay.
you just
Anyways.
can't.
Words.
Yeah.
So, I really liked how this started because I would be the exact same way. If I had heard those words, I would be repeating them in my mind 24/7. They would be all I could think about. And even at one point, she's like, I'm going to throw those words into the rubbish. And maybe I should think of a different word for like my trash bin. Cause she's like, I
Yeah.
would be the same way. Just
Now, what exactly did she say?
she's quite rubbish at it, really, is
That's
what the
right.
sentence is.
Mm-hmm.
My jaw did drop. I started it, and it's how the first sentence.
Yep,
And I
that's
was
the
like,
first sentence.
"Oh no!" was my reaction.
This poor
So,
girl.
yeah, honestly, yeah, that would never. I would even years later after we've settled this, I would still think about that randomly.
Yeah,
So
I would too.
I know,
I
I'd
would
be like,
too.
so you say we're fine, but like, are you lying? Like,
but
have
are
you
you
been
lying
lying
to
for
me
years?
this whole time?
Right. Yep.
I just don't understand how anybody could be like labeled as bad at sex. Cause like it's a joint partnerships. Like if the
Yes.
sex is bad, it's not just on one person. Cause
No.
like the only reason I could be like, oh, she would be bad at sex is if she's like being very aggressive with him and he's like not into it. Like, but
Yeah,
even
if
then,
one party is doing something aggressively that they like and the other party is not reciprocating.
yeah, like it's not consensual, then I'd be
Yep.
like, oh, they're bad at sex because they don't
Right.
understand consent. But like,
Yep.
But that's also like not necessarily
On
bad
you,
at sex.
yes.
yeah, that's not bad at sex.
That's a
just
consent
bad as a
issue.
person.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. But we all know, I mean, we find out that do we find out who it is in chapter 1?
No.
No?
No.
Oh.
Because I thought it was someone for the
Oh,
longest
you're
time.
right. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I was like, well,
That's
my
right.
God.
You're
I
right.
was getting ready for it to be a Ron bashing fic.
I
and
wanted it to be a
wasn't.
Ron bashing. I love Ron bashing.
Well, yeah, I thought it was Ron the whole time. I was like, oh, as soon as it was revealed to not be Ron.
Oh no, it was chapter 2. Okay,
Oh,
nope.
okay.
I didn't see that I had chapter 2 up there. It is chapter 2. So
well.
anyway, but I'm like, when you find out who it was, you're like, oh, that makes sense.
Oh yeah, of course.
that person would say that. What a dick. I mean, Hermione, you were a little, were you feeling bad about yourself? Is that why you slept with him? I mean, is that what was going on? What was happening?
In like the later chapter, she's like, it was just to scratch an itch, but did it really scratch that itch? It's like, why would you go back then? Like, one time is enough.
Yep.
You don't need to go back again.
Did she go back again?
She slept with him 3 times.
Yeah. Once was earlier, and then it said that there was a break in between, and then they slept again 2 more times. And I was like, after that second time back together, I would have been like, this is obviously not working for me, and never done it again. But you read that he was the one that wanted it. He kept like it was at his I don't know what the wording phrase was, but it just made it clear that she was not the one that reached out to him. He reached out to her, and every time
he just wants attention.
He wanted sex.
Men.
Yeah, he just wanted the sex. And then he's going around telling people that she's bad at it.
Because he wants the attention.
Yeah.
He wants the attention that he's had sex with the golden girl and he wants to tell everybody she's bad at it. Yep.
Because he'll get more people talking about it than if she was good. So, because that's just how
so mad.
Locker room talk works, apparently. I don't actually know, so please don't come at me. Yeah.
I love their bickering that starts in chapter 1. I guess this is towards the end of chapter 1, but they get to the unplottable land and they both decide to split up. She's like, I'll take this half, you take that half. We'll meet back here in an hour. He goes, you really need an hour to do that half?
I could be here in 30 minutes. Make it 20.
He
just wants to rile her up. Like,
yep. And I loved it. I did too.
Also, this chapter, in his point of view, it talked about how he's like, oh, some might call it Gryffindor courage, but I call it recklessness, and she needs more self-preservation. It's like, it's a good thing I'm here. And I'm like, oh, he's already protective. Like,
yeah. Yep. We love a good protective Draco Malfoy.
So yeah, that's chapter 1. They go to this cute little place.
Yep.
Yay.
Do they go to like a bed and breakfast? Is that where they're at?
It
Or
sounds like
is
either
it
a hotel or a bed and breakfast.
okay?
It's kind of hard to tell. It doesn't
If
explicitly state.
it's England, I like to just immediately say bed and breakfast in my head. Like, especially with the later on they talk to a lady that
It's like the owner or
yeah.
like the manager,
Mhm.
like the main person, and they end up
So
taking the dining table. So that makes me lean more towards bed and breakfast. Like there's a central location. Because in hotels, I've never been to a hotel in anywhere outside of the United States, though. So I could be totally wrong, but like there's not really like a dining hall kind of thing. I
I
mean,
mean,
there's
it's
like
like
the
every hotel
lobby.
that has, yeah, like I mean, like hotels have like eating areas, but that's I
Like a
wouldn't
I
call
wouldn't
that,
continental
call it a dining
breakfast.
yeah,
table.
I wouldn't call it a dining table either.
Mhm.
So I don't even know if because I went to one hotel in, no, I went to a few hotels in England, when I was young. Um, if you watch Sherlock, Holly, the oh my God, in season 2 where Sherlock is luring Mary somewhere,
Uh-huh.
has he caught her? And they're walking in front of the facade of the buildings. Oh my God, I don't
I'm
remember.
trying to remember.
Well, okay, they pass uh a hotel shoot, and it's right next to that where anyway, my cousin picked that for that reason, and I was like dead. Anyway, I'll shut up now. I just got excited. Any reason to talk about Sherlock is
I
fine.
know.
Carry on.
I do not
Yep.
care. I
Yep,
am
I
not a
know.
fan of Benedict Cumberbatch, and I don't care. You
Okay,
guys
that's
can
fair.
all
And
send me
Tracy and I
hate
are.
mail. I don't
Love
care.
him.
I stand my ground.
Is it
Oh my
about him?
I
word.
don't
It's
know.
so
His
funny
face
because
bugs me. I
Carrie
want
Ann,
to punch
I
him.
still, when I hear his voice, I literally start blushing.
I know his voice nails on chalkboard. His face, I just want to.
See, I don't. It is so weird. Isn't that so weird
So
how we
weird.
I
have
don't know what it is.
such opposite thoughts? It's so funny. So funny. Yeah, that man, his voice. Oh, I melt. That's okay. That's okay. Anyway, um, so we get to chapter 2. Are we done with chapter 1?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Chapter 2, I like the beginning because there's a couple things that happen. First, she talks about how she feels like she's like overeager first year trying to
Yes,
impress
I was
like the
gonna say,
super
is that what you're gonna
cool
say? Because that's
like
what I wanted to
seventh
say. Yes.
year. Like I feel like I would be the same way. Like anybody that I'm like,
So cute. I
yeah,
know.
like
Anyone you're
I
crushing on,
don't know how
it's
to act
like,
around you.
that's exactly how I was when I was in high school. Around boys that I liked, especially Bryce. Good hell. I was one of those girls that I'd I'd like be really quiet and then I'd be like, yeah, it's just really bad. I'm glad he liked me. It's a good thing.
Oh boy.
It's a good
I
thing.
can't relate.
I can't either.
Yeah, I can't relate. I was not that girl in high school.
Nope.
It was like Benedict Cumberbatch talking to me.
Oh my God. Yeah, nope. Can't relate. Can't relate. Not me.
Yeah, it's funny. I
Not
know.
me.
Something's wrong with me. It's fine.
Well, we
And-
knew that.
I'm glad I'm done with that part of my life.
Anyways, and then after that, that's when it's revealed that it was Cormac that said those words to her. It talks about the situation that she just happened to pop into the leaky to use the flu and overheard her name and stopped just to listen. And he was talking with all of his Quidditch friends. And I would just, what?
Do I remember? I thought she had to use the loo. I thought she had to use the bathroom. That's why she went in there.
I don't know. What was it? Was it
Wait,
the...
what? She went in where? Sorry.
The leaky cauldron.
Oh, it was. Okay. It was the bathroom, not the
Okay.
flu. I don't know why I thought it was the
No.
flu.
She wasn't just going in there for drinks.
No,
it's
she
just
was
saying-
going in there for the
okay.
bathroom before meeting Harry, before she had the
Okay.
flu to him. So maybe that's why, because
Yeah.
it was mentioned a little later. Anyway, yeah, she went in there to use the bathroom and heard him talking shit because
Yeah.
he's
She's
shit.
quite rubbish at it, actually. I think I found the only thing she can't learn from a book.
I would have cried.
Oh yeah.
I would have
would-
cried.
I think I would have been so angry in that moment that like, and you think about in the books, like she sent all those birds. Like, I think
Oh, yeah.
something like
Right?
that would have happened, and then
Yes.
the emotional outburst would have happened back at home. Like, I'd be sitting in bed,
Right.
and that's when it would hit me, and the tears would come. I'd be like, "Oh my god, he said that about
Yeah.
me."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anyways, she
That's
just
terrible.
She just left and didn't do anything to him. I would have done something, but I'm more petty. So, anyways.
You know, I like how our girl Hermione just jumps right into this.
Yeah.
With Malfoy.
I thought
She
it was
just
so
sorta
funny how she
jumps right
gets
in.
to it, like how she kind of thinks about it. She's like,
Yes.
she needs practice. She's like, okay, maybe she could find like a muggle. And then she hears a noise. She's like, wait a minute. He's
I have
single.
Malfoy here.
Yeah. He, if the papers are right, is experienced. It's like, okay, we're here for a month. Let's
Yeah.
do it. Like,
Yep. And she has so much Gryffindor courage. Just, yeah, whatever. I'm gonna go ask him for sex and not be embarrassed by it. I mean, she is a little bit, but not to the
Right,
point
like
that she's talking herself out of it.
the fact that she even just
Yeah.
did it, just
yeah.
talked
Would
to
you
him
ever
was
ask
impressive.
anybody for practice sex?
Nope.
No.
I
Nope.
I'd be way too embarrassed.
I would be watching a million videos online. I would be using toys. I would never ask anybody for help. Like I would do all of like the practice on my own. So she just was like, hey, have sex with me. I need practice. And he's like, what? What'd you say?
I loved everything you just said.
Anyways.
I mean, like you have to exhaust all of your options before bringing someone else into it like this. So
I am not
I'm with
gonna
you there.
jump straight from hearing that to like, you know what? I need somebody to help me. Like, no, I'm gonna do it on my own first. And then like naturally you're gonna go to like have sex with somebody, and then you could just be like afterwards, be like, oh, by the way, how was that? Like, I'm not gonna come out and tell you like I'm
True,
using
like,
you to
hey, I'm bad at
practice.
sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
would have done so much beforehand before I even got to like having sex. So, anyways.
I loved.
Okay.
Sorry, you can go first.
You
sure? Okay. So I loved when, she goes into his room, she approaches him and she's like, I need help with something. And he says, anything. And you go, oh, wait. Do we have a pining Draco Malfoy? I think we do. That was my first, I don't know if it was my first, I think it was my first instance of, oh, someone's got a little crush.
Somebody's
maybe
got feelings.
something.
Anything. He said before he can stop himself. Within
Yep.
reason.
Within reason, he adds to
Yes.
So, he's trying to catch his mistake there.
Yep. It was cute. It was so cute.
The part that I loved this whole chapter, my favorite part, he says something because he's, trying to dissuade her. So he says, if he's talking about like the way you propose, it sounds like it's something you can study. And she goes, well, isn't it? He goes, if you think it is, then you're definitely doing it wrong. And she goes, that's what he said, sadly. And he goes, that's who said? And he immediately writes a name, hands it to her, and says, send an owl. Tell him to meet me at Azkaban. I'm going to go murder Weasley. And
and I love that she doesn't even bother correcting him.
Yeah, she's like, it's not important. Don't worry about it.
Yep. The fact that she doesn't bother correcting him when he says out loud, oh, that Weasley, and she's like, she just doesn't say anything.
Who said it doesn't matter? You just said the same thing. But that's different. I've never slept with you.
That's so funny.
Oh, Draco.
That's my favorite part the whole time. It's just the way he was so fast. He barely had asked the question that he's writing down his solicitor and he's getting up and leaving. Like, oh, don't you just love a protective man?
Yes.
Don't you just love that he's like, I'll go to jail right now. Like,
yep. And this was within this whole conversation, I was like, oh, he really, really likes her because he's only trying to argue her out of this because he likes her. So this whole time he's like, that's probably not the best idea, we work together,
he's
but
I must be in hell. I'm trying to argue out of sex with Granger.
Yep. And you're like, oh yeah, it's because you're infatuated. I love this.
I really
what a good boy.
I really like the line of oh my gosh. Oh, like we're coworkers. It's a terrible idea. She just responds with, you're right. I just thought, you're experienced and I trust you. And he was like,
Mhm.
"You trust
You
me?
trust me?
I love.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, that always makes my heart
Yep, me too. I love
hurt,
that we
honestly.
start
But
out with that because they work together. That she's like, well, yeah, I trust you. I'm like, that's just sweet. That's a very kind thing.
Mhm.
It's so nice.
Yeah, so chapter 2 ends with her having propositioned him and them agreeing that it's actually probably not a good idea. And so she leaves. And I love the last line of the chapter because it says, like, it was a solid 30 minutes before his breathing returned to normal. Like,
Yes.
he's so affected by that conversation that he can't even breathe right. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, and then
Oh.
chapter 3 starts, and like, doesn't it? I think it starts with like, it's been 3 days
3
now since
days
their
had passed
conversation, and it's
without
like,
either one of them mentioning it.
how
Yep.
awkward. How awkward. Just so awkward.
Okay, I don't know if we mentioned it. It's important to note that he rejected her completely in the end of
Yep.
chapter 2. Of like, nope, we're not doing that.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, I'm flattered, but no.
Mhm.
And she's like, okay.
And she's like, okay, and leaves like a big girl.
I would have cried, but that's
I mean, she
that's
might
me.
have in her room, but
I know. I would have cried in front of him. I wouldn't have been able to stop it.
I mean, yeah, probably.
So yeah, chapter 3, they talk about like what they're doing, how they're working, like the process of like, because the whole premise of the story is that they are on this island working together, going through this old pure-blooded house that they're pretty sure has a bunch of like cursed objects. And so that's like their whole job is going through the house, determining what's cursed, taking out what curses they can, almost like curse breaking in a way, but they're not curse breakers, which I thought was interesting. Like, he's an Auror and she is department head of something else. And like, or
I
maybe not
forgot the
department
name.
head.
Me
But
too.
yeah, anyways, so it just talks about like their process of what they're doing and how they're arguing over which way it should be. And, you know, this is his chapter because he goes, he knew that she at least briefly considered having sex with him because now it was all he could think about.
Mm-hmm.
So he, showers and he's gonna go. They left early that day, so he's like, "Oh, I'm kind of hungry." So he goes across the hall and knocks on her door and is like, "Hey, like, let's go get dinner." And no answer. He's like,
Yep.
"Oh, okay." So he goes downstairs and he's like, "Hey, have you seen my partner?" And the girl at the front, her name is Margaret. I'm pretty sure. I said that very confidently, but I don't. I don't know that off
I
the
don't
top of my head.
remember either.
Yeah. Anyways, so the lady's like, "Oh, she left like half an hour ago." And he's like, "Oh, do you know like which way, like where she went?" And she's like, "Oh, Connor said something about fish and chips, so I would check here." He's like, "Connor?"
Honor.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, the librarian. They met here last night. They got on, so he must have asked her out." She's on a date with someone else. She had found someone else to practice with, and he just leaves. And
Yep.
oh, he didn't even think about it. He just ran. And
Yep.
whew,
Love it. You're here for it.
it's like he's admitting to himself, which is funny because as we know in later chapters, he's very fully aware. But as the reader, you're not quite sure. But it's like at this moment, he's admitting that he's jealous. And so all of a sudden he's like all in. He's like, "Oh, that's it. She can't do it with anybody else. She's got to do it with me."
Yep.
So yeah, he goes, interrupts the date with some dumb excuse. Yeah, taxes. There's a problem.
With the taxes. Wait,
And it's an
what?
emergency. A
Yes.
tax emergency at 8 p.m.
At
He's
8
like, "I
p.m.
said we have to go."
It's so funny.
Oh. So yeah, they go. They're, walking down the street and she's mad at him. She's like, "What's gotten into you?" And he's like, I think you could do better."
I love how quickly the whole thing escalates too. Because she starts getting mad at him, right?
Yeah.
She's like, "Well, you
Yeah,
I
because
don't even know what she says."
He goes, "He doesn't know you're a witch." And she goes, "Of course he doesn't." And so Drake goes, "So you'd be lying to him." And Hermione goes, "And all the muggle women you shag know you're a wizard." And that's where he goes, "Oh, I don't want to lose a fight. So he kissed her. And I giggled at that because I agree.
The only
That
thing to
would be
shut her
the
up.
moment. Yeah, that would be the moment that I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I don't want to, she can't win. Like, I have to win. And so, yeah, so he kissed her. And this is when it escalates all of a sudden. They're like full on, like, soft porno in an alleyway. Like,
Yep.
he's
Yep.
unbuttoning buttons on her
Yep.
shirt.
Until he
somebody-
realizes some of her buttons are already undone. So his first thought jumps to Connor. Oh, he's already made it this far.
She's like
Thought that was
grinding
so
on
funny.
him. Like, they're full on softcore porn. And somebody wolf whistles and they're like, oh, we should
Take this
stop
elsewhere.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that's where it's funny because she goes, I suppose we should talk about it. Or he says that. And she's like, well, I was thinking it would be helpful if I got feedback. And he goes, I am not giving you marks for shagging. He's like, I'm not
Yep.
going to grade you. She's like, but I just want info. And he's like, how would you like it if I asked you to grade me? She's like, I guess that's not like super. Like, so they come to an agreement. They're like, oh, and like, she's asking about like the kiss. She's trying to like understand. And I loved what his answer was because I can imagine him like saying it like super mad, like Merlin's left hit, you're fine, better than fine. Like, like just like angry yelling at her, like I'd be like, okay, thank you. I have a problem. I like when men yell at me. I have a problem. If in my head, again, he's angry yelling that at her, I would have dropped to my knees so fucking fast. I would have been like, oh my God. Like, New Girl, I just watched this episode where Nick kidnaps the girl that he thinks is Cece's mom, and she's yelling at him, and he goes, stop yelling at me, or I swear to God, I'm going to fall in love with you. That's me. I have a problem.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh,
anyways,
love it.
The rest of the chapter is they just talk about their boundaries. They say like, we're not gonna have sex at work. We're not gonna do that. She doesn't want to sleep like in the same bed after. She like wants to separate. They don't want to have any sleepovers. And then he is the only condition he puts is that it's only while we're here. The second that the month is up, we're done. And she's like, okay, sounds good. And they don't have sex that night.
He was the one that set the month? I thought it was her.
No, that's the only condition he had was that it ends in a month.
Okay.
She was the one that was no sex at work and that there would be no cuddling.
Yeah.
None of that.
Why did he put that stipulation out there?
Because this is revealed later.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what chapter it's revealed.
I can't remember.
But he said that he put that in there hoping that by having an end date, it would be easier for him to accept and like move on from that, because he still is like in his head, like there's no way she'd want anything really with me. So I'm going to take what I can get for this month. I know it ends at this time and then it will be easier for me to move on. That's like his thought process behind it. She was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Gotcha.
Oh, right there. It's in chapter 3. If there was an end date, maybe he wouldn't get too attached.
Okay. Well, it makes sense.
So now we're into chapter 4.
Yep.
This is the first time, even the little chapter notes, it's the first time that it's mentioned because one of the tags is sex pollen. And there's a sex potion. And this is the chapter that's mentioned. And it's right there in the beginning of the notes. That way everybody can kind of understand what's going to happen. So again, they're going through this house. They're looking for cursed things. They come upon a room and there's a bunch of potions and they're like looking at it and they're trying to decide like what it is. And they're, being little swats and stuff like that. Because he's like, that one looks like it might be compulsorora. I don't know how to say that. Do you see the scarlet specks? Almost nothing has that. Like, who else is going to remember that but them?
Right.
So they're like talking about it and like, oh, it's probably super old. And she's like starting to like, she's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have made that stupid no sex at work rule. And he's like coming up behind her. And they're like, she's like, And then he goes, Hermione, why are you holding my hand?
Yeah.
She's like, no. So they open a window and they're like, oh, you should be careful. Like, the fumes can be bad enough. There's a good chance they've soaked into everything in here. And if the bottle's that old, it'd be really bad. She's like, okay. Okay. She's like, I'm good. I'm clear-headed now. Oh, I really like that. I thought it was so funny that Hermione, why are you holding my hand?
I agree.
This part of the story, again, I read this story twice. And both times I get so lost with like the side story of like the Bones person. Like,
oh yeah,
there's like a marriage that they're like trying.
Okay.
It was very
yes.
Both times it was very confusing,
Yep.
but I think I finally got it. So the house is somebody with a P. I can't remember the last name. Something with a P.
Hagford?
Something like that. That person married a female Bones person. I don't know if it ever says the name, the first name.
Susan Bones.
One of her relatives.
And that's what was confusing for me.
Oh, it says Susan?
Like, uh-huh.
Oh, I thought it was just like, oh, it's someone her. Oh,
so I thought when it mentioned that, I went, oh, wait, is there something like some sort of mystery here that they're going to solve and it's going to have to do with Susan Bones? No, it wasn't. But I thought maybe, so I had Susan Bones on my mind the whole time and I didn't need to.
Well, anyways, I figured this is cutting through all like the rest of the chapters. So like, just in case anybody is wondering, like it's not all explained in chapter 4. So they married, but it was very clear that the female, Susan, had a muggle friend that was very, very close to her, that was with her at all of like these events and these big moments. And that caused quite a ruckus in the wizarding world. And then when she died, rather than have her be buried next to her husband in a plot, he bought her a separate plot next to that muggle friend. And he actually had a plot next to a male. So it sounds like both of them were not like, it sounds like he was into men and she was into women and they married each other, but then had their side relationships. But it was important that she was with a muggle because it was supposed to be like,
this is like a pure blood.
Yeah, it's supposed
maniac.
to like she went against her family and like went against everything she like grew up and learned. So like that was the whole side plot of that.
Yeah.
Which took me, again, I've read this twice. It was still very confusing. And I hope I got that right.
I think you got it right.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's what I understood.
The like 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. If you haven't read that, read it. It's really good.
I've not read that.
Again,
I'm too busy with my monster smut right now.
Spoiler alert. It's fine.
Anyways. So they talk about where they're going to start in the house. They're going to start like at the dungeons, go up. They argue, their banter, and this was kind of funny. Because he's like, I think we always end up doing it your way, don't we? She's like, oh, I took your advice that one time. And he's like, you took my advice. And then halfway through went back to your way because, and I quote, we are wasting time pretending this is working. She goes, I was right though. Like, it's so cute. So yeah. They have, this is when, first smut comes in. They're like starting to kiss or whatever. I really liked in this part because he asks her, he's like, tell me how you like it. And she goes, I thought, shouldn't it be about you? Like, if this is me improving, wouldn't that make sense? And he says, sex is only good if we're both enjoying it.
Yep.
Like, and so he goes, how do you like it? I don't know. Like, I loved how he took, like, I would have been so embarrassed to have been like, I don't know what I like. Like, again, this is already an awkward situation. You're trying to have somebody help you because you've been told you're bad at sex.
Yes.
Like, to
and
then
so you're
like,
already
I don't
feeling...
know what I like.
Yep.
Like, it could have been so awkward, but the way he did it was like, oh, well, do you like this as he touches her softly, and then it's like, or this as he like touches her hard to like figure out what she likes. And like, it could have been so good. It could have been so bad. That's what I was
That
trying to
was
say.
like,
It
it
could
was
have
so
been
good.
so bad and so awkward, and like he was a gentleman. You know, he loves
really
her.
likes her.
He loves
Yep.
her.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He wants it to be good for her. So yeah. This was good. I like the smut. It was funny because he's like telling her to be patient as he's like
Yes.
ripping open
Patient.
her shirt. And she's like, didn't you just tell me to be patient? And he's like,
Yep.
you should be patient. I've never had much use.
That's such a Draco thing, and I'm so glad that was included because that's
Yep.
just
You can
that's
be
just him.
patient. Yeah. It was good. They're like having, you know, sex, and he talks about like, oh, he wants to go down on her, but he's like, he would save that for later. Take his time.
Yes, and I love there's a line in there where, you know, he is talking about that. But the line says, but if he knew his Granger, and I'm like, if he knew his Granger. It's just so cute. The way that it's written is so cute. She had a checklist to take care of tonight, and so it's sweet. His Granger. I'm like, yes, she's yours. I'll give her to
This
you.
this is also the first like time that it's really explicitly mentioned that he had spent the better part of a year wondering how her eyes would get if he made her fall apart. So it's the first time that you get confirmation that he has been pining for her for a year.
Yep.
And it's just kind of slid right in there. So it's good.
It is good.
Yeah. They have sex, you know.
And he loses control as soon as they actually start having sex because he can't help it.
His vision blacked out for a second. And like,
yep.
I love, like, oh, let's see. He'd had a plan, one that involved letting her come down from her orgasm and talking with her, making sure they were on the same page. But the second she melted back into the mattress, she was pulling him on top of her.
Yep.
Yeah.
Getting it
all
on.
of a sudden, like, made him, like, I think he would have just, again, like, he says his vision blacked out. Like, I would have just been so shocked and been like, what just happened? What just happened?
Yep.
Because, yeah, that's an immediate feeling and you don't stop. So, especially the first time for him, him wanting to do this to her for that long. I don't really blame him.
So chapter 4 ends with them.
Yep.
Sex is done. Chapter 5 I really liked because it goes in the 6 years Hermione had worked. She spent countless hours with him in silence, but those silences were generally clothed. Like, she had never encountered silence when he was still inside her.
I wrote down in my notes in all caps at the beginning of chapter 5, best sex of her life. Like, nice. Shouldn't that be a sign for you, dear? If you haven't been pining, maybe you should start.
There's your, oh fuck, what's the word? I don't know what word I was gonna say. Never mind. We're gonna move on. I laughed because the first thing that they say after sex is actually he says it. He goes, I swear, if you ask me to evaluate you, I will hex you so badly. Potter will drag me to Azkaban. And she's like, I wasn't going to. Not that formally. I just thought some feedback. And he's like, you were there. You know it was good. But this was the part that I wanted to cry. She goes, is sex always like that?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, it's always that good. And she goes, oh, I guess McLagan was right. Like,
I had to put my phone down because I went, he's lying.
Yeah. Like, you want to grab her and be like, he's lying to you because he loves you. Like,
yeah,
but it was
hurt.
He very quickly was like, don't you dare blame yourself for what he said. It wasn't you. There was no way it was you. Like,
yep.
He was very quick to try to like make sure that she knew that he wasn't trying to say it like that. But he still wasn't very honest with her. But that's a side point.
At least he still kept like her feelings because he immediately realized how she was going to take that.
Yeah.
and be like, oh wait, no, and backpedaled basically. So
Yeah. So yeah, but then she leaves, and it was cute because it was like, go get your shirt. I'll mend the buttons because he ripped them in that.
Yep.
Like, brings that right back up. Oh, so then the next part, they're working in the house.
Yep.
This was also one of my favorite parts of this whole story. He hears an explosion. He waits, counting to 5.
Yes.
They had a system of like checking in after 5 seconds, and so he's like, "You missed the check-in limit." And he's like, "Hello." And so she shows up, doesn't say anything. He's like, "You scared me." And she just all of a sudden starts cursing at him. And she's not saying anything. That's what I thought was so funny. She was firing silent curses. She still had not said a word to him. So he's like, you know, not getting attacked, but he's like, just defending. He's not attacking her. He's just defending. And he's like asking if she can hear him. And she goes straight for the window overlooking the cliff. And he's like, snap out of it, snap out of it. Don't make me do it. Don't make me do it. And he waits until she's like lifting her leg up to jump out the window before he officially like stupefies her. And then this is when he gets all like soft and protective. And he's like, what happened? What did you find? And he's like trying to like lay her down softly. And
yes,
it's just like, oh my gosh, don't you just want to?
It's cute.
Give him a little kiss. It's just like he's like trying to figure out like what happened. He's looking through all this, and he is talking even though she was, still at cold, because it was helping him to pretend that she was like there. And so he's like talking, and then he goes, that was it, for me, that was the moment. And it goes into a flashback of just like some random little conversation that they had where she told him to not listen to Rita Skeeter.
Yep. Because she did a stupid article about him.
Yeah, that was it.
And that was his moment.
That was his moment.
That he started liking her.
Oh, it's so sweet.
Because what it was is she said, I don't blame you for that. You were a kid.
Oh yeah, because he said nasty things about her to Rita Skeeter in 4th year. Yes. And that was like, I don't blame you for that. You were a kid.
You were a kid. That was the moment. And oh my gosh.
So cute. So sweet. But he says that out loud.
Yeah, he goes,
and he's talking to her while she's unconscious and is like, that was the moment for me. And then he's looking, through the drawers that she was looking through to try to figure out what it was that cursed her. And he hears from behind him, what moment? Like,
yeah, it was the newspaper.
He woke
and what
up.
do you mean that was the moment?
Yes.
The way I would imagine.
He backtracks.
Yeah. You're awake. And like, oh, this was really cute because he's like taking her chin and tilting her face and like looking all like over, and he's like touching her chin, and like he just can't like
hands on Hermione's
he can't
face.
keep his hands off of her.
Yep. So sweet.
And then she was like, you haven't followed protocol. And he's like, forget the protocol. Are you okay? And she's like, protocol, Draco. He's like, how old were you when you punched me?
Yes. And what color was my Yule Ball dress?
I imagine that tone, like, how old were you when you first punched me? Like, he was
rolling the eyes as you say it, just like, get this over with. And so he's like, okay, what happened? And so she's like talking about what happened.
Yeah. And this is where that story comes in.
Yeah, they're talking about the happy couple because it's just some newspaper about the
Susan
Charles.
Bones.
Yeah, Charles Pragford was upset his sister got married. And so it's her wedding day, but she is standing next to her husband. But like if they look closely, and there are sparks flying like in the background
from wands and stuff.
And you see that she's actually reaching to grab the hand of her muggle friend that's standing by her to like comfort her. That's like the first like little hint that like, oh, it's not just a friend.
And that friend doesn't know much about magic.
Yeah.
Because she's a little scared.
Yeah. She didn't just escape. She escaped to be with a muggle. And he's like, just happy that the girl from the pink bedroom had found a way to be happy. Like, that's just what he's so excited about. Yeah.
So
And this is important. The story is important because he says, like, they want to know what happened. They want to know, like, the ending. Like, oh, did they actually, like, get their happy ever after? Like, what happened with these people? And they're, like, trying to figure out how to do it. And he goes, well, Pansy has an aunt that was, like, around that time. And she's a pretty big gossip. So, like, she might know. I could write to Pansy. And this is important because they write to Pansy. I loved Pansy in this. I wanted more of Pansy.
Yeah. I also loved her in this.
But she comes up later. Don't you worry. You're pretty.
Yeah, she was great. I loved the author's notes at the
I
end of
wrote the
chapter
same
5.
thing.
Oh my gosh, so funny. She just does a little back and forth between Hermione and Draco, and Hermione just tells him that she kept Rita Skeeter in a jar, or just a woman in a jar for a
I kept a fully grown adult
year.
woman in a jar
Yes.
for a year as punishment for being a dick to me and my friends. Draco, I have the weirdest boner right now.
Oh
That's
man.
just funny. I loved that.
It was such a good little author's note. I did enjoy that. So chapter 6. It talks a little bit about, like, more of their sex practicing, but it doesn't go into a ton of detail. But, like, he would ask, like, have you ever done this? And then she would admit, no, I haven't. And then
Yes.
he says, well, then I get to be the first.
Yep. That's my first quote that I wrote down too. And then there's another quote. Hermione had never laughed this much while being intimate with someone or felt so unfettered and comfortable at the same time. And I'm like, that's it right there. That's love. That's
I know,
love.
like, don't
When
you just
can-
want to smack her upside the head and be like, realize what you're feeling?
If
Stupid.
you can laugh while you're being intimate, you're doing it right. Yep, you are.
Yeah.
So awesome. Love that for her.
So they're talking about, like, they're doing work. She's talking, and it's in her point of view. So she's talking about it. It's never been this way. Sometimes all he has to do is, like, arch his eyebrow, and, like, I get hot for him. And so, like, he uses it against her. He puts her hand on her back or brushes his leg with his. And, like, so it's just, like, talking about that. And they're doing work, and he puts his hand on her knee, like an apology. She's like, and then she's like, why is your hand on my leg? And he's like, do you want me to move it? And she's like, I want you to stop teasing me. They do this is this in the,
Yeah, it's at work. At least I'm pretty sure. Hang on.
no, this is at the B&B, Margaret.
Okay. Oh,
he-
yep.
He's, like, going to, like, open her shirt. She goes, do not rip the buttons. And he's like, you didn't like my mending spells? She's like, I don't want to make a scene. And he's like, you don't want to make a scene, but you want me to fuck you on her table. Like, she's like, yeah. He goes,
And then
there's
he
my
says,
girl.
That's my girl. And that was the I'm a little weak for that. It's fine.
It was fast. They didn't really do, like, a lot of foreplay. They just, like, did it fast.
Yep.
You know, which is good. And then I really liked this little paragraph. Like, it should have been awkward with him after. It had been with Cormac and the Muggle. But with Draco, it was simple. He helped her straighten up her clothes. I'll finish the paperwork. You go take one of those showers. Like, just, like, there's no awkward, like, where's my clothes? Like, don't look at me. Like,
They're comfortable.
yeah. This is when Harry sent some word. They're going to go back to London for the weekend. He's getting some people together to go out. She invites him because he goes, was I invited? She goes, I'm inviting you right now. Like, oh, how cute. She invited him. And then it jumps to, like, the next day or whatever. And he's looking at all of these different, they're, like, I'm going to say they're, like, in a dining room because they're looking at, like, cups and plates and silverware. It's a tiny butler's pantry and, like, all this stuff. And so he's looking at it and he's like, looking at the runes, and he's like, there's something that's different, but it has an extra mark. And all of a sudden, he's got a pleasant feeling. A giggle escapes.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yes.
And she's like, did you touch it? And did you touch it? I would have just.
I can picture that happening, and it's so funny.
I want him to yell at me, but then I also want this. Like, I want both. I just.
And she tells him, get
Oh
outside.
man.
Oh, she's like, don't touch anything. He's like, okay. Oh, it's such a lovely out, isn't it? And she's like, did you touch it? And he's like, I'm not stupid. It was just cute. So you find out that one of his ancestors stole from
Yep.
these people at one point, so they cursed their stuff so another Malfoy couldn't steal it again. So it only affected him.
It's so
And
funny.
She's like, leave it to you to get the fun one. Well, I get to throw yourself from the highest window. And then
That I did
she's
find
like,
very funny.
oh, he says something kind of sad, and so she like goes to like wipe his hair off his head, and is like, oh, you should be okay. Like, I think you need some fresh air. And he's like, keep doing that. And she's like running her hair through his fingers,
stroking his hair.
He's like, that feels nice. Oh. He goes, tell me a story. She goes, what kind? He goes, one of those muggle ones, the ones you tell our children.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
I died. It's fine.
Mm.
Oh my gosh. And it's so cute because he's like, something in his mind whispered danger, but he was half asleep, feeling safe and warm and happier than he'd ever been. Whatever it was, he would fix it later. She's like,
Yep.
Okay then.
And she just kind of get it over it.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever.
It was
then he
funny
wakes up.
because, yeah, he can't remember what he said. That was the important part. It said that his gut told him he had something to apologize for, but for the life of him, he couldn't remember what. And he asks, like, was I out of order? She's like, we're fine. Don't worry about it. He couldn't help but feel like she was lying. That was chapter 6. I loved chapter 6. I did.
Yes, it was cute.
It was just such a good chapter. Chapter 7, I'm gonna say this about all the chapters, because chapter 7 was good too. This is where a little bit of Ron bashing came in, and you all know
where
I'm
her
a
friends
slut
come
for
in.
that.
Yep. But it turned out so good. I loved this entire scene. This whole chapter was just fabulous. I loved it.
So she like got
they go to a pub.
Yeah, she got all cute, and she's like, I always look this cute, and like, you put more effort into your hair. She's like, I just wanted to feel pretty. And she's like not admitting that she got dressed up for him. And like Draco comes in, and it's like not super awkward, but then his eyes tighten when he landed on Ron, but he didn't say anything. Like, so then Ron says, like, Jen's right. You do look nice. Red was always your color. Draco tensed. Like, don't you just want to climb him like a tree? Anyways, he like is kind of poking at Ron. He's like, bit rude not inviting me. And Ron's like, well, you're not. Like, so yeah, Ron is being a little bit of an ass, and Draco's being a little bit of an ass. And this is where that's my girl came in again, because she orders a fire whiskey. That's my girl. And Ron's like, what's that about? And she's like, well, we're just friends. That's all. He's like, I don't like the way he's looking at you. Draco's like, what don't you like, Weasley? And Ron goes, you. I'm just imagining like my friends all drunk and like sitting around and like, what don't you like? You. Like, anyways, Ron says something under his drink, and Draco's like,
under his drink?
Under his breath. Sorry. My brain is working faster than my mouth. Anyways.
Anyway.
They're trying to figure out like she's like trying to figure out what's happening, like why they're being so mean to each other, because they've been around each other without getting, she says, without getting sucked into a wand measuring contest.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty funny.
And there was some bickering that was going on too. Obviously between Draco and Ron, but yet Hermione's trying to get it to stop, like she's elbowing Malfoy, and she tells Ron to knock it off, and Malfoy mimics her and is like, "Yeah,
Ron, knock it
Ron."
off. And she's like, "You too." So
it is.
They decide that they're gonna duel.
And Hermione's like, "Harry, like, doesn't she tell him, like, are you gonna stop this?" And he's like, "No, I'm his second." Like Ron's second or something.
God.
Like, oh my word. It's just, it's funny.
She heard Harry call out that he was Ron's second, and she buried her face in her hands. "Can you do something?" And Ginny goes, "Well, they're not fighting about me, so no, probably not." And then that's when it clicks that, like, oh, Draco thinks Ron said that still. And like, oh God. So it's funny because then Ginny goes, "You really need to stop this because it could be bad for him." And immediately Hermione's like, "Well, Ron's a pretty capable duelist." Like she's thinking that Ginny meant that it would end badly for Ron, like Draco was going to beat him. And she goes, not him, Malfoy. The ministry's going to look the other way no matter what my idiot brother does, especially if my idiot husband is involved." Oh.
I love that though. So she stops it and she tells him it was Cormac.
Yeah, Ron didn't say it.
Yep. Cormac said it all, and then Ginny disapparates, doesn't she?
No, not yet. In a minute.
Oh.
Yeah, because all of a sudden, Ron turns to Harry and says, you said you sorted McLaggen out." And Harry goes, "I did." And Hermione goes, "Wait, you knew?" And like,
oh, that's right.
Like,
yes.
What happened?
Yep.
And Ginny's like, "What did he do?" And everybody's like, "Nothing." Like, Ron's like, "I thought you said you made sure she wasn't going to be near him anymore." And Harry's like, "I did." Like,
yeah.
And then that's when Draco's like, "Wait, really? McLaggen? And him?" Ginny's like, "Is anybody going to tell?" Like, I'm imagining everybody drunk outside. Like, everybody's talking over each other. And she's like, "Is anybody going to tell me?" And they're all like, "No."
So funny.
Someone was supposed to take care of that. Hermione is like, "What did you do when you sorted him out?" He's like, "Remember when he had that black eye? That was me." And she's like, "And you warned me off of him?" He's like, "I pointed out his black eye and said he's a piece of work, isn't he? And you agreed." He's like, "That was it. That was perfectly clear." And Ginny goes, "Oh my God, I'm married to an idiot. I'm having an baby." And Draco goes, "You are, it's true." This whole little banter chapter between like the friends was so funny. Oh, and he's like, "Well, oh, that's okay. I can go kill him. He's not even a war hero like Weasley. I bet the ministry would give me an order for Merlin, more order of Merlin." Harry's like, "I'd put your name in myself." This is when Ginny.
That's right. She just disappears. She's just,
like,
she's just not there.
Did she go to use the bathroom? And she comes back. She's like, "It's handled. He won't be opening his mouth again."
Yep.
I don't blame Hermione for not saying anything to her friends just because of this scene.
Yep.
Like, I love that they're so like willing to, go to bat for her, but it's also so embarrassing.
To know that your closest friends and people that you may consider, like, obviously we're thinking that Harry and Hermione are like, they always are like brother and sister. Like, I would be so mortified if my brother had heard that I was bad in bed. I would have, oh my God, I would have such a hard time looking him in the eyes after and being like, you heard that I'm bad at sex.
To me, it's more like, yes, that is embarrassing, but to me, it's more of one, this happened later. Like, this wasn't very recent. This was what, like, at least a few weeks that it happened, at least. That to me, that would be like, oh, well, now Cormac knows that I heard it too, and I probably cried about it to my friends, and that's why my friends are coming up to bat to me. That's where my head goes, and I'm just sad and pathetic that way, so it's fine. So, anyway.
So, anyways, that's chapter 7.
Yep.
What a good chapter.
I like again her notes at the end of this chapter. She says also, "Yes, all of these titles are stolen from Taylor Swift, as I am the most basic of bitches."
I actually didn't even notice that they were.
I didn't either.
Until she said that, I was like, oh yeah.
I mean, I knew the title is a Taylor Swift song.
I was gonna say which is funny. I like try to look at like the chapter titles, and maybe I'm just missing them.
There totally are not chapter titles.
I
Wait,
was like,
what?
yeah, maybe I'm missing them. Hold on.
Okay.
All
Are
of
we
these
just dumb?
titles. Oh, maybe just because of all of her one shots, because she's talking about her deleted scene that she added. So all of the
Okay.
titles of her fics.
Right. Okay.
It's like Amor Vincent Omnia. That one, all the chapter titles are Taylor Swift songs too.
That's right. Okay. Makes sense.
I don't mind. I get the songs stuck in my head. Like I
Yeah, if
have that
only you
song stuck in
listen
my
to
head
all
right
of
now.
them.
I know. I'm sorry. I'll work on it.
Anyways,
I know this song. Call it what you want. Yeah, call it what you want to.
I actually don't know this song, if I'm being
It's from the
honest.
Reputation album. That's why you don't know it.
That's why. I refuse to listen to it until Taylor's version.
I love that album. I do.
Get with it, Carrie Ann.
Anyway,
good.
sorry, we can move on. We can move on. Chapter 8.
Yeah, so it's just they're leaving, and
Oh, yes.
Draco takes her because Harry's like, "You can get her home, okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I've got her. Like, come on, let's go home." I loved this right here.
So
He
good.
puts his hand on her neck to like steer her
Steer
out.
her away. Oh, yep.
That
The
just possessive. Yeah. Oh my god. Woo. So
like, like lower back is great. Back of the neck. That's like more intimate. That's much more intimate.
I'm all for it. So, anyways, he's like, "Where's your place?" And she goes, "It's rather far. What about yours?" He goes, "Are you asking if you can come home with me?" She's like, "Did I cross a line? I'm sorry. I know you said only on the island." And so she's like, "I assume that was for the duration of the time, not a geographically specific barrier."
Being a swatty asshole is what she was being.
And he's like,
but that's okay. We don't mind.
He's like,
not in this case.
fine. I was just making sure I heard you. And she goes, "Did you really almost fight a duel for my honor tonight?" Like they're both just a little tipsy and like, you know what they say? Isn't it like what's the saying with like the drunk lips? Drunk. What's the saying? It's like
I don't
I'm
know the
only
saying.
thinking of loose lips sink ships.
No, it's like
No.
it's supposed to be like what you say when you're drunk is like your sober thoughts or something, like the words that come out of your mouth are what you think when you're so like anyways. It's supposed to be that you can't, you're supposed to take a big like be serious. And so they're like talking about I won't then this time. Future offenses are fair game. He's like, "Oh, they're just talking. Where did it go?" And she's like, "Draco, were you jealous?" He's like, "I wasn't jealous." She's like, "You don't need to be." And he goes, "So you're saying I'm stuck with him?" And she goes, "For as long as we're friends." Like, they both are admitting that they want this longer, but they're too tipsy to realize that they're saying it. I loved the line between jealousy and possessiveness was thin, but Draco had good balance. Oh. They go into his house. Immediately, she's like all on him. He was going to give her a tour, but she just did not want that. So they start, this is another smut scene. It was pretty good. I liked this one.
This was a good one. I liked it. It was more like, I guess it was sweet. It was very sweet, this one was.
She writes his face.
Yep.
Which is good. I like that a lot. I do. And even he's like, he knew this would feel more intimate, more intense, just more. And like, he's just loving it. She loves it. It's always like, it's just good. And he thinks back to when she had asked, "Is it always like this?" And this is when you realize that he was just mad because it's never been that good.
Mm-hmm.
And what the hell is wrong that it wasn't ever that good for you? And then this part I wrote down because it just, you just want to give him a hug because he goes, his only solace was that he knew it would be that good for her again with someone else, someone better. Draco, on the other hand, was fucked for life. Like,
he just needs a hug.
Yes.
I just want to hug him. Oh. So they finish, and he says some dirty things, it's good. And then he's like, this would be the time when she usually got up to leave. Everything's kind of muddled. And so he decided to just let himself. He's like, we could deal with it tomorrow. And I say that all the time. I'm like, well, that's future Carrie Ann problem. Like, I'm not going to deal with that now. That's later. And even she like wakes up. And she's like, it's the most comfortable place she had ever slept. And like, she's like, I'm sorry I stayed without asking. And he's like, you can stay whenever you want. That was your rule. If you want to break it, that's fine with me.
That's where I got confused earlier with where he did the 1 month rule. That's where I got confused. I'm sorry. Because I thought that was so freaking like sweet. Just that was your rule. Break it whenever you want.
Yeah, because then she goes, I still should have asked. And he goes, then let me make this clear. You can have whatever you want from me.
Why don't men like this?
I would take it
exist?
all.
Yeah.
So then they go to have some food. He goes to like give her a shirt, and he's like, well, here you go. I have a lot of white
Yes.
button-down shirts, unless you'd rather wear one of my suits. And she like starts looking around. She finds his Quidditch jersey,
Of course she does.
takes it, puts it on. And I love this. He seemed to be debated saying something and then shook his head. You go find your wands. Or find our wands. I'll find some eggs. Like, don't you just love, like,
Yes.
it's like a little tease. Like, hee, I'm
Mhm.
wearing your jersey. Like,
Yep. So cute.
so she's looking for the wands, and Pansy comes out of the flue. And the little banter between Pansy and Draco also was my favorite, because he's like, Pansy, haven't you heard of sending an owl? And he's like, don't be crude. And then she goes, since when have you ever cared about that? I seem to remember you fingering me under the table. Like, he throws an egg at her.
Yes.
Like,
Oh.
fuck you. But he was like laughing. And even Pansy's laughing. He's like, just kidding. Draco's the model of propriety at all times. No sex acts in public places. Like, it was just, what?
At first I thought, at first I was really worried because I thought Pansy was gonna be a bitch.
Yeah.
And so kind of like this interaction, I was kind of like, okay, I hope she's not gonna try and be like super possessive of Draco. Like I please let this be banter. And thank God it was.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because then she turns to Hermione. She's like, you and Draco then. And she's like, they're still asking about like the jewelry. And she goes, he finally told you, didn't he? And Hermione goes, told me what? And she tugs a ring off her finger. Never mind. Oh, so he puts it on the table. Draco comes back and he immediately sees the ring and goes, what did you do? Pansy goes, nothing. Gotta go. Bye. Lovely to see you. And Draco picks up the ring and says, what did she say? She goes, nothing really. Like, does she often show up asking jewelry? And he's like still looking at that ring. He's like, yeah, it's an arrangement. And she's like starting to get a little jealous. And she's like, you have a lot of jewelry? Like, oh, it was just funny the way that they like talked about this. And he's talking about how some of them are like blood rings, only certain like members of the family. And she goes, but Pansy can wear them. And he goes, we're related. We're second cousins. Close enough that she can wear them for a few hours without trouble. Related, but distantly enough you can finger her in public. Like,
Yes. Yep. I was like, ew.
And you're like, oh.
Because when he said that, when he's like, oh yeah, we're related, I went,
Yeah.
because it was
Gross.
Anyway.
Not thinking
but
about
I
that.
mean, if you think about it, all of the pure-blooded families like pretty much are like inbred at that point. Like
the royal family.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're all gonna be. So they like have some breakfast, and that's where it ends. And one of my notes was just that I wanted more Pansy. Like, she ran out of there so fast. I was like, she should have stayed. She should have had more conversation, like more banter. But I also know that it was important for the story for her to leave. So like,
I was gonna say, plus like that's such a Pansy thing at that point to just leave to let him deal with the consequences.
Nothing happened. I gotta go. Like, so chapter 9.
It goes back and talks about how Pansy found out that Draco had a crush on Hermione.
Yeah, this chapter angst comes in.
Yep,
This is the
and
chapter
I
that the
hate it.
angst comes in, okay?
I was loving this story, and I was just all happy over here on my cloud 9, and then
This
the
was
angst
the
got
chapter that
introduced,
you
and I
sent
went,
us the message and you went,
I
this
did.
story's sad.
And I'm like, why am I reading this? I don't want to read this
This
now.
was the part that was sad? Okay.
It was the chapter.
This is like the
just-
chapter
It
that
was where it
starts.
started, and I'm
Yeah.
like, no, stop feeling those stupid feelings and just
Yeah.
love each other. Stop it.
Yeah, they are riding back on the boat to go, the ferry, to like go back to the house. And he's like, try to figure out, like, she didn't lean towards him like he thought she might. And so he's like, Pansy must have said something. Pansy never let the jeweler go without a fight. You realize that Pansy figured it out and has known for almost a year that he has been interested in her. So he's like talking about it. He's mad that she had to go to the Weasley family dinner. But he goes, it's not that he didn't want her to be happy and loved, it's that he wanted to be there with her while she experienced those things.
When does Theo come in?
Later. That's not this
Oh,
chapter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, what chapter are we on? Chapter
Oh,
9?
it is that chapter.
It is?
Sorry,
Okay, I
I
was
just
like, it's just a
like a
little
couple of
farther down.
paragraphs up.
Okay.
Yeah. So because she leaves later that day,
That's okay.
and Pansy
right.
comes in, and he goes, Pansy's too chicken to bring it around herself, and Theo, I assume it's either women troubles or money troubles, and I'll be honest, I inherited my money like a proper pureblood, so I have no idea how to manage it. So I'm hoping it's women. He goes, you
And
have
then-
literally never dated a woman in your life.
That's
He goes,
I lost
exactly,
it at that.
which means you must be pretty hard up if Parkinson thinks you need my counsel. Oh. And then, yeah, he's like, Pansy told you? And she goes, no, that's just an educated guess. And Draco's like, I'm that obvious. And he's like,
I mean,
you bring her up often, that's all. And Draco's like, we work together, of course. He's like, you also work with Potter, but I have no idea how he takes his tea. Granger, on the other hand, is a milk, no sugar woman. And like, he's talking to his friends about how she takes her tea. Like, oh, don't you just, I want a guy that devoted to me, that in his free time, he talks to his friends about me over dumb shit, like how I would take a drink. Like, oh. It talks about the ring and why Pansy took it off. He put a little hex on it, so that if she ever told the secret, it would
Sting her.
So she took it off, and that's why she was mad. And so that's how he knows that she had to have said something, because she wouldn't have taken it off if it didn't. So anyways, they get there, and then it jumps to Hermione's point of view. And she is in her own head.
And I hate her.
Surprise,
I hate her for it.
Yeah, she's in her own head. She's starting to click pieces together, because Pansy's words have been sitting there in her mind. And so it was that, and then it talks a little bit about what happened at the Weasley family dinner, because Ginny goes, so how long have you been dating Draco?
Yes.
And Hermione's like, we're not dating. And even Harry's like, you're a little bit dating Draco. And Ginny's like, even Harry noticed, and he can be thicker than Ron. Ron's also noticed, but I'm hoping you figured that out on your own. She's like, we're not dating. Like, oh, it's just funny that even Ginny was like, what's going on? And she's like, I think you've been fucking Malfoy while on that weird little island, and you've both gone and caught feelings. And Hermione's like, you're half right. She's like, it's complicated.
Yeah.
And that's why he tried to fight Ron. And Ginny brings up, like, please tell me you didn't decide McLagan being, how do you say McLagan?
McLagan.
However you say it. I don't even care.
Yeah, he doesn't matter. It's fine.
Inconsequential. Nope. Yeah. She's like, so it's just sex. And Hermione's like, yes. Ginny goes, liar. And she goes, Hermione's like, we're also friends. And Ginny goes, no, you and Harry are friends. You and Ron are friends too. But when was the last time either of them put their arm around you, or touched your hair, or your lower back, or tried very hard not to smile when you challenged Seamus to an impromptu spelling bee? Like, Ginny's just like put it all out there. And so Hermione's starting to like realize like, oh, Ginny said something. Pansy said something. Draco, when he was under that curse, said, tell me a story, the ones you tell our children. And she's like, the way he always seemed to hold her face, or the way he would kiss her forehead or laugh at her funny, like not super funny jokes. And so she's like, oh shit. So she's like starting to think about it, okay?
Yes.
Like
and
a
getting into her
dumbass.
own head and going,
Yeah.
okay, he likes me. And I've taken advantage of this situation.
Which,
Like a dumbass.
Yep.
Sorry. She was annoying.
which, so I can see why she would think that.
Yes.
I can see why she would immediately go to like, oh my God, I've taken advantage of him and his feelings. But she keeps forgetting, and it's even mentioned in the other chapters, like, he's a grown man. He knew what he was getting into. Like, that's not your responsibility to protect his feelings and his emotions, because if he didn't want to do it, he wouldn't have done it. Like, I just think that's such an important note out there for everybody listening. Like, you are not responsible for somebody else's choice and how it affects them. Like, if they make that choice, they knew what they were getting into. Like, it is not your responsibility. You don't take any of that on yourself. Okay? I can see how she got to that point.
Yeah.
And how she's thinking that, but it's not true. Just putting that out there. Okay. Chapter 10. Unless you guys have anything left for chapter 9. I would say the rest of chapter 9 was just her clicking all the pieces and realizing like, oh my God, he likes me, but probably likes me way more than he's letting on. We need to talk.
Yeah, my notes for the rest of the chapters dwindled significantly because I did not like the angst. I wrote one line for chapter 10.
Even the end of chapter 9, the author's notes goes, oh, hi there, angst. Good? Question mark to see you. Like, oh, man. Yeah, so Draco, the first line, Draco's heart stuttered at the knock at his door. He had a feeling when he opened that door, everything was going to change. She asked him to go for a walk and got them ice cream. And he knows her mother-born way of softening the blow. Like, obviously they've been working together for 6 years. Like, he started to like pick up on like her mannerisms and like what she does. And so he just knows the second that she's like, oh, let's go get ice cream. He's like, oh God. I'm like, it's happening. So I thought this was really sad because he thought he could handle it. It would be enough, he told himself. But even at the start, that lie felt thin. Now it threatened to choke him. So she's like being her normal self. She's like, I have some questions. Why did Pansy leave the ring? And he goes, that's your question.
That's your question. Yeah.
She goes, it's my first question. What did you do to the ring that made her take it off? And how did she trigger it? And so he admits, like, she knew a secret. I hexed the ring. If she told it, the ring would sting her until she took it off. Hermione's like, well, she didn't tell me any secrets. And he's like, well, what did she say? And she's like, he finally told you, didn't he? And he goes, fucking pants. I'm like, just so cute.
It is.
This sentence I laughed at, actually, because she goes, what did she think you told me? And he goes, it pissed him off, quite frankly. How dare Granger leave her famous bravery behind on this and make him do the heavy lifting?
Yeah.
Me too. I would be mad. Me too. So yeah, this is when he admits, like, he's like, I'm not going to. What's your next question? She goes, okay. What was the moment? The day with the newspaper when I was waking up, you said that was it. That was the moment. What'd you mean? And he just like talks about what happened. And she goes, that was almost a year ago. It was 11 months to be exact. She's like, that long? He's like, what do you want?
Yeah.
This is, again, you just want to punch her because she goes,
you do.
I'm sorry, Draco. If I had known, I wouldn't have started this. And he goes, you're sorry? And she's like, for taking advantage of you. He's like, yeah, I feel real used. Definitely wasn't fully consenting there. I'm certainly not an adult who made a choice. If anything, I was the one who used you. He knew what he was getting into. Like, you can't take that on yourself. And like, she's like, I wouldn't have started this if I knew it would hurt you. And he goes, well, you mean you wouldn't have started it if it meant finding out I have feelings for you.
It's really sad. It's really sad.
I just want to cry.
Hurt my feelings real quick.
She goes, I'm not blaming you, Draco. I'm blaming myself. I was the one who started this. Your feelings, I should have considered them, and I didn't. So he goes, so you have no feelings involved in this whatsoever. She goes, that's not what I said. He goes, no, it isn't, but it's what you meant. Don't bullshit me, Granger. I was there too. Am I imagining things? And then she is getting mad because, it's kind of an argument where they're going around in circles because, like, they're both stubborn. She's never going to, like, they're both just kind of arguing. So she's starting to get mad. And she says, I don't feel the same way, Draco.
Ass hat.
I immediately was like, you know how we were saying earlier, like, the second that I would hear, like, she's quite rubbish at it, I would be sitting there with those words, like, on repeat in my head. Draco's immediately, like, those are the words, like, I don't feel the same way. Like, those are just going to sit and run in his head over and over and over and over and over. I'm like, oh,
that hurts.
Just want to give him a hug.
Mm-hmm.
And so he turns away. He's like, hey, we're done. She's like, I'll get word to Harry. And he's like, don't you dare tell him. And she's like, I'm just going to tell him you're coming back. I'll finish up here. I can handle the rest. I'll make sure we don't work together after this.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you're going to break off completely because, oh my, I'm like, oh, it's like that, Granger. Okay.
Yeah. Because then he says, I'll get over it. I need some time. That's all. He goes, I'm fine. Just go. And for once, she let him have the last word. And that's where the chapter ends.
Ouch.
Oh my God.
My heart.
Like, even, it goes again. She's not responsible. He's not responsible. Neither one of them took advantage of the other. Like, they both were aware of what they both made the decisions that they made. Neither one of them is, like, taking advantage of the other. But, like, just because the beginning wasn't what you thought it was doesn't mean that it, like, has to end. Or, like, even like you said, they're like, she's cutting him completely out. Like, they're partners. They've worked together on multiple things before. Like, you can't just cut something. Anyways, I was like, Hermione, you're being a real fucking dumbass right here. So anyways, chapter 11. This is a very good and sad chapter. You feel very mixed. So it is pointed out in the author's notes right at the beginning of this chapter that the sex potion does come back in this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty mild content warning for people.
Because it's kind of implied non-consent, but it is consent.
Because they are under the influence of a sex potion.
Yes.
And they both are like, I can't really resist it. So, like, that's
as far
where
as
like it goes.
Questionable consent comes in.
Yeah. But at one point they do both say, like, oh, we're gonna do this one last time, which I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but, like,
that's okay.
They both acknowledge that, like, it's gonna happen. They're both moving forward with it. So, like,
yep.
Anyways. So the rest of the week sucked. They didn't really talk. This is from Hermione's point of view. And so she's starting to realize, like, just how much her and Draco, like, interacted and how much she looked forward to, like, spending time with him. And she is, like, starting, like, she's like, yep, it was different. She knew that. Sex had never felt like that. She's, like, trying to figure out what was happening, why she felt the way she felt, like, whatever. Dumbass. You just want to hit her.
Yep.
She couldn't decide, like, how much she liked him, if it was a friend, somewhere a lover, somewhere in between. It was frustrating for her. And then this is what makes me a little mad, because she goes, whatever she felt, Draco's feelings started almost a year ago, which gave his feelings a weight she wasn't sure she was ready for. Listen, people do not start crushing on each other immediately at the same time. Like, it does happen at some points, there's love at first sight or whatever. But most of the time, one person is going to develop the crush before the other person does. That's just how it is. So, like, you can't put all this pressure behind Draco having had this crush for a year at this point, because that's just how it is. You can't, like,
That's just when he realized that he liked her.
yeah, that's what happened to him, and you realizing that you like him a year later doesn't make his feelings more powerful than yours or your feelings less than. Like, don't be stupid. Like, ugh. Anyways, I even wrote that in my notes. I'm like, Hermione was being so fucking stupid.
Yep, I called her an idiot several times.
Yeah. So she even talks of, like, she's starting to think about, like, oh, there was the complication of her friends, you know, one night of Draco and her appearing together, and it went into an all-out fight. Like, who gives a fuck about your friends? Like, they're not the ones in the like, I always hated that. Like, they are not in the relationship with you.
Nope.
To me, like, your friend's opinions of a significant other is important, and it is very important to me. But you know how Draco is, and you know why they don't like him. And it's because of old prejudice, and like he was a bully, and it's like that. I wouldn't, I don't like that she put so much weight of, oh, my friends don't like him. Well, you have to ask why your friends don't like him. Because if it's petty things or things that you have already forgiven him for, cool, they will get there too. Or maybe they won't, but that's different than anyway, sorry.
Yep.
Sorry.
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know. Yes, I think
it's very case by case.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
case
it's
by
so,
case.
because there would be times, like, if I'm first dating somebody and, like, this is the first time that they're being introduced, I would obviously want, like, honest
Feedback.
opinions from
Yeah.
friends. But they've known Draco. They're working with Draco. Like, they're not in the relationship with you.
Right.
So they don't have to love him. They just have to accept that that's a choice that you've made. Kind of thing.
Right. That's where it comes back to, like, Draco and Harry and Ron. The reason they don't like each other is for, like, just old school bully shit that can be forgiven, you know, if they actually tried. So, and yeah, they know him. They know how he is now. And yeah, so I wouldn't put weight on that at all. At least not in this case.
No.
In other Hermione fics, you know, sometimes it's valid, but
So, anyways, they're just, like, the first part of this chapter is just, like, talking about how she's going through all of this in her head and what she's thinking and how it's awkward. They're not really talking. And it's this last day, and Draco's, telling the people who are moving the artifacts and stuff, like, in and out, like, what to do. And he comes down and is like, I'm gonna go check upstairs, make sure they didn't miss anything. And he just leaves. And so she's watching him climb up the stairs, and she was like, she just wants to try to fix something. She just knows she wants to try. So she starts to go up following him. She steps in something, follows him into the pink bedroom, and is like, okay, Draco. And he immediately is like, leave, please. She's like, I hoped we could talk before you go. And all of a sudden, it hits her. It says a wave of heat curled through her. His gaze burned into her, like, getting horny real fast. He goes, it's not safe in here. And it says that they spilled the one sex potion bottle. And all of a sudden they're, like, kissing. And even he says, it's the potion. I don't know how to stop. I want you, but tell me what to do. And she goes, don't stop. I want this too. And then that's when he goes, just this once, one last time. And she goes, one last time. It's not one last time, you stupid idiots. Like, it's just, ugh. So they have sex. He first goes down on her. And I really like this part because she's standing and he's, like, kneeling. And he even says, like, I always wanted to do it like this. You standing, me kneeling at your feet, how it should be. Oh my God. Yes. So
say no more.
he's, saying like, you're so perfect, everything about you. Like he's just talking about how much he likes her. Oh, so sad. So then they finish.
Wait.
What?
I'm so sorry. Hey, don't say it like that. The I really like. Well, okay, no, never mind. You can keep
No,
going.
say it. You've interrupted me. Say it.
Well, I'm such a sucker for where she's about to climax, and he says, "Please be a good girl for me. Please be a good girl for me." That's it.
I do
Okay,
like that
go
sentence
ahead.
too. I do like that sentence. You're right above where I'm at, so it's okay. So, because that's like the end of it. So he pulls away, can't look at her, gets dressed, opens the window, and says, like, you'll need to air this out. Be careful. Don't come up here until I send a team to clean this out. And she's like trying to talk to him, and he's like, I have to go. I have to. Like, we can't risk it. It'll happen again. And I can't. I have to go. And then as he leaves, he says, I'm sorry. Him saying I'm sorry to her after that, that's what crushed me. I think tears came out of my eyes the real first time. Like, just that's so fucking sad. Like, she's like, don't be sad. Don't be sorry. Like, oh, nothing's his fault. Nothing's her fault. Nothing's his fault. There's nothing to be sorry for.
It
That's
is.
a lie.
It's sad.
Something is her fault. She broke up with
Yes.
him. No, she does need to say sorry. But yeah, that was chapter 11. Chapter 12. This killed me because this was just pining. This is just a pining little chapter.
And doesn't it start out with Harry asking Draco about the end of their case?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like,
asking about the potion.
He's like, I'm looking through there. I'm like, oh, then you just say nothing. The report ends. He's like,
Yes.
That seems unusual. It says that the spill was mostly in the stairwell. They've got windows in the stairwell to air it out. I was like, okay. Like, oh, he's a good friend. And I liked that he brought this up with Draco too, because it was almost like he was giving him an option to like talk about it if he wanted to. Like he was giving him as somebody who kind of understood like what the situation was, what they were doing. Like he could have talked with Harry about it in that moment, but Draco wasn't going to. I would never. One, you're my boss. Two, you're like the brother to the girl that I bet. No, there's no way I would have ever opened my mouth. But anyways, it talks about like how he's pining. Yeah, he's like, oh, it's gonna suck when she comes back. Her office is just down the hall. He's gonna have to pretend like his heart wasn't broken. And this part was also sad because Harry's like, if something happened and you hurt her, I don't care that I'm your boss. I will do you for real. And Draco's like, she's fine, I swear. And then in little like italics, it's like, I'm the one who's broken. Like, oh. Oh. So sad. Harry's a little gossip. Just trying to get all the information. He leaves. He goes home. Pansy's asleep on his couch. Yes, Pansy.
And he's like, don't you have your own flat? And she's like, yeah, but not a prat that's in it.
He's like, yeah, she's like, well, you're not fighting with me on the love bit. He's like, it's over. It's irrelevant. She's like, well, what did you do? He goes, well, it's what you did, actually. I also would be mad because he's like, you're the one who told her how I felt and spooked her. She's, I did no such thing. He's like, but you had to take the ring off. Yeah, it was just Pansy. Yeah. This chapter, this little interaction, it made me realize like she's just protective of Draco. She feels the same way that like Harry feels about Hermione. Like she just is protective. She's like, I didn't think it was casual because she was wearing your jersey. Yep. And because of that, I thought that you had admitted. And she was so taken, like she would have to. And like,
yeah,
She's
It
like,
makes
oh,
sense.
she
I would
really,
have assumed the same thing.
I love
Yep.
Pansy.
And then Pansy actually gives him the information that he had written to her in the beginning of the fic, asking about
Yeah, the
if
story
she
with
knew anything. The
the
story of the Bones and the
yeah.
Pagfords, that marriage. And that was when she told him that, oh, when they were buried separately with other people. And, that's kind of where you really put two and two together.
Yeah, and he's like, she got to be happy for 40 years. Like, oh, Pansy's like, he did. She did. So then it jumps to Hermione, and Hermione's helping paint the nursery for Ginny and Harry's
I
baby.
loved this
This was
part.
really funny. I know. I have never thought about wizard painting before,
Right?
but it was like it was influenced by your mood. So every time she was trying to paint it red, it would turn into an emerald green. And so she's like, "Are you sure you wanted Gryffindor colors? What if the baby started into Ravenclaw?" And she's like, that doesn't look Ravenclaw-ish. It looks a little more snake-like." And so Harry comes in and starts painting. And this part, I have very mixed feelings about this part of the story. And there's so Ginny and Hermione pretty much confront Ginny and Harry confront Hermione at this point to talk about Draco. And they're trying to figure out like what's going on and trying to pretty much get Hermione to admit that she actually does like him and that she's being stupid, which is good. Sometimes you need that push from other people. So I like that. What I don't like is that in those kind of sentences and like how they're coming, like the way Ginny was saying it, she would say things like, against my will or against my better judgment. Like, I don't want to be having this conversation. At one point, she said, I would rather have a lobotomy than have this conversation sober. Like, Hermione is already putting so much weight onto what they think of Draco that those comments would push her further in the opposite direction. Like, Ginny can't even handle a 5-minute conversation about this without wanting to be plastered or get a lobotomy. Like, she can't even.
Yeah.
So what's she going to do if she does admit, like, yep, I really do like
Yeah.
him. I want to be with him forever. Like, that would be my thought process the entire time. So I just felt like the way Ginny came across in this part, it was just very, like, if I felt very mixed because I'm very glad that they were there to help her realize. I'm glad that she did kind of realize, like, at the end, like, oh, yeah, maybe it was a little bit more serious than I thought it was.
Right, because yeah, Ginny was the one that was bringing up like, well, because Malfoy's in love with you,
Yeah.
so she was, really trying to get her to talk. But yeah, the other things that she said about him, like, great. I don't want to. If I were Hermione, I wouldn't want to talk to Ginny about him ever again. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so like they're getting her to admit that she's in love with him, and like it's great. And Harry even she's like, well, I feel like I took advantage of him. And both of them are like, what do you mean? And Harry's like, that's not how it works. He's had a thing for you for a while. Yes, he's an adult. If he thought he could handle it and it turned out he couldn't, you should respect the fact that he made a choice and stop trying to take responsibility for it. So like there were such good things like said in there. Like even Harry's like admitting like it's not on you. Like and so it just I liked it's I think it was harder because Pansy was first and then they were next. And so when you
true.
read the interaction
Yeah.
between Draco and Pansy and you just see that she's there, she's letting him vent.
She did try and call her a cunt before he
She
stopped
did.
her.
She
So
did.
she wasn't being nice,
And he's
but
like,
it's
watch
also
it.
Pansy.
I was gonna say, and it comes she in that in my mind that again just shows me like how protective of Draco she was because she could see he was hurting. So instead of she was immediately gonna like, oh, she's being such a bitch for hurting you. Like in my mind that was fine. I don't know why, but like the conversation between Draco and Pansy was like super supportive and cute, and like I got the sense like Pansy loves Draco, she's protective of Draco, she wants what's best for Draco. Like that's what I got. And then the whole time between Ginny, specifically Ginny, really, Ginny and Hermione, I just kept getting the sense that like I get that you want to help, but you're not doing it in a way that actually is
right
helpful
way.
at all.
Yeah.
Because
and even Pansy stopped insulting when he said like quit.
They're
Yeah.
caring way more
She
about their own
stopped.
feelings than her
Mhm.
feelings.
Yeah.
It drives me insane that Harry in this, hang on, I just had it, of like, was the sex that good? Harry, shut up, we agreed. And he looked ready
Yeah.
to faint. I'm like, shut the fuck up. That's
Yeah.
your friend. Like, this
Uh-huh.
is your friend. Quit.
Yeah.
That bugs me. That I don't know why. That's always bothered me. Just like, yeah, I know you don't like this guy,
Yeah.
but that's not about you right now. So I
Yeah.
don't
So
act like you're gonna faint.
this was probably like my least favorite chapter, but that's,
Yep.
I mean,
But it's a
I
good
like,
chapter.
I know I like all
Like
the
it's
chapters. I'm
yeah,
just
it's
saying,
still
like,
good.
I don't know. It's just, I don't know why I had such a
It
hard time.
brought so many emotions up,
Yeah.
so of annoyance mostly,
Maybe,
but
yeah, like, maybe that's what it is. Maybe I've had experiences in my life and I'm like, it's like resonating with me and I'm like, oh, frick, man, that's not nice.
mhm.
Like, I don't know. Like, maybe that's,
This isn't
anyways.
what you say to help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like this chapter just was the one that I was like, I really don't enjoy the way that Ginny came about it. But I also understand
No.
that she was doing, like, she was helping. She was doing what she could to help. It was just the little comments. But
Mhm.
maybe, oh my
Maybe it was
God.
just the Weasley coming out in her.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
it just clicked who it reminded me of. Oh my God. Okay. So now I know why that chapter affected me. Anyways, we'll just move on. Chapter 13. Chapter
My goodness.
13
I love chapter 13.
kills me. So she's back in the office.
And it's excruciating.
He's just suffering, you know. He ends up, you know, staying super late until the rest of the team had left, you know. He found he could work better. So he is there late at night. He runs out of paper, parchment. He's like, I could summon it, but his legs were stiff, needed a walk. The storage room was across the hall. So he's like, I'll just go to it. But then it starts talking about the room, and I loved
Yes.
this. I wish
Yeah,
more
me
fics
too.
had things like this in it.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a temperamental room.
I was so confused at first. Because I was
This
like, what the
room,
fuck is this?
this room had an abhorrence for conflict, and once locked
Dean and Seamus.
in for 2 days, providing food and water as needed.
When they were fighting, they were in a fight.
Until they were no longer on a break.
That
So
was
after
it.
that,
God.
Harry institutes a strict one-person policy, so that way nobody else could get locked in there. They have a sign-up sheet and everything. So Draco's like, okay, he looks at this sheet. There's nothing on there.
Make
So
sure no one's in
yeah.
there.
He goes in, he hears a gasp. It's Hermione. The door closes and then vanishes. Hermione's like, why didn't you call out? He's like, I checked your sign-in sheet. You weren't on there. Like, the way I would be so mad. You put the damn thing up and I checked and you
Yes,
didn't.
I would have
Like,
been mad too. And hers was like,
Mhm.
I didn't think anybody was staying this late. Doesn't matter. There's protocol. You talked about protocol earlier. You got to follow it, girl.
Ugh.
Ugh.
So then she goes, there must be a way out. All it takes is the right spell. She's like, there's always a loophole. And he goes, well, Potter couldn't get that, like, Dean out. And she's like, well, I think we both know that I'm the better witch than Harry is a wizard. Like, so she's like looking at it and he's, you know, turning around. I can imagine just like it's like you turn around. It's like, just get a moment.
Yep.
And then he turns back around to like say something and sees that she's like reaching out to touch the wall. And so he goes to tell her no.
Yep.
The wall shoots her backwards, slamming her into a shelf. So like stuff falls on her. And I loved this. Instead of saying like Granger, he goes Hermione. Like, oh my God. Like, oh, I love that. He's like trying to find her. And he's like, what did you do that for? And he's looking at her again. He's touching her. His hands are on her face to like make sure she's okay. And she's like, it was an experiment to see if I could get close to where the door was supposed to be. And he goes, you saw no alternative except to touch it yourself?
Yep.
And he goes, are you always like this? And she goes, actually, I'm not. If I'm on an assignment with someone else, I generally don't try something that dangerous.
Yep.
So he goes, so I'm the only one who's cursed to deal with your Gryffindor ways? this part crushed me. She goes,
Yes.
"You're
Yes.
the only one I trust to have my back if something goes wrong. I can take risks with you. I don't take with anyone else." I would have been speechless. I would have been like, "Oh, what?" So then she's
Yep.
like, "I know Harry couldn't get him out, but it can't hurt to let him know we're in here." So she like sends up a Patronus and is like, "Hey, we're stuck. Can you come get us?" They sit back down, and Draco's like, "Is it true? You're reckless around me because you trust me?" And she goes, "I wouldn't say I'm reckless, but I do take more calculated risks around you because I know you're competent enough to help me if something goes wrong." So then the Patronus comes back in, and Harry's like, "Can't. Jin and I are at Mungo's. Baby coming. Jin tells you to shag it out." There's a long pause. "Please don't." It goes away. And so
That's what I like about Harry is the please don't. Like that's
that's the
as
boss coming
much.
out like, "Please
Yeah.
don't have sex in the storage room." Like,
Not the I don't want to hear my friend's sex life. Like, yeah, as much as he doesn't want to hear it, don't be a baby about it. But that is hilarious. I'm sorry.
Yes.
so, Hermione's trying to like, it's a little awkward, a little tension. So she's like, "Oh, did you ever hear back about the marriage?" And he like tells her like, "Oh, I did. It caused quite the scandal, but they were happily married for decades." And she's even asking like, "What was it about them? Like you seem more invested than you normally are." And he explains like, "Look, look at where she came from. She managed to see something different in the world and managed to be someone different." She goes, "Oh, Draco, like, oh, if you're not gonna kiss him." And he's like, "Well, who would have thought that Malfoy would turn out to be sentimental, striving for sarcastic, but landing somewhere closer to depressed?" And I'm like, I've done that. Where I like try to make a joke and I'm like,
Yes.
"Oh, that sounded way too real." Like, "Oh, my bad. Careful, guys." Oh. So they both like, it gets dark. They both like turn on their wands or whatever. And he's like, it says deciding for the first time in his life, his pride wasn't worth saving. So he continues. He's like, "Am I just pretending? And if I stop fighting it for 1 second, I'll just go back to who I was, who I really." And she goes, "Nope, don't you dare say it. That's not who you are. And you know it." He's like, "I wish I had your confidence in me." And then she asks, because she can't remember what that moment was, what she said to him about Rita, about
Yeah.
Skeeter. And so she
She
goes,
can't
"What?"
remember the
Yeah.
memory.
She goes, like, "I don't remember what we talked about. Like, what did I say?" And so he just explains that, like, "You said that I was a kid and Rita was the adult, so you don't blame me." He goes, "I've done a lot of things. Everyone blames me for them as they should.
Mhm.
Even your friends have only half forgiven me. But that day, you just blew it off like it was nothing." And she goes, "It was nothing, though. It was kid stuff, really." And he goes, "Yeah, it was
Yeah,
enough
that was the
for me."
moment.
Yeah, he's like, "I've gotten very good at begging for forgiveness. For you to say I didn't even have to bother, I don't think you understand how rare it was." And then that's where she goes, "As long as we're admitting things, I lied on the docs. You asked if I had feelings for you, and I said I didn't, but you were right. I was scared. I was being a coward, and I'm sorry." And he goes, "What?" And I loved this next part. She starts rambling. She
Yep.
just like starts saying everything. She's like, "You're right. I did feel the same way. I still do, but you said you have feelings." And she just like keeps going. And he's like trying to interrupt. He's like, Hermione, like Granger. And she just keeps going and going. Like he cannot get a word in edgewise. And so he gave up trying to interrupt her and just kissed her.
Yep. Just like the
And
beginning.
she pulls back. She goes, "I'm not done apologizing." He pulls her back and says, "I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Shut up." They keep kissing and she's like, "Don't tell me to shut up." And like this, he says the best thing. Okay? He goes, "I do what I want here, remember? Everywhere else, you're the boss. Here, you listen to me."
That's right.
Oh, I feel that in my bones. In my bones. To a T. That is like, I think that's why, because that's me in my personal life. I am a very dominant personality. Like I tend to make a lot of decisions and I tend to just like generally like be the one in charge and like do all of these things. So like the moment that it comes to like sexual activity, I do not want to be in charge. That is not I don't want it. So I was like, I love that. That's just so good. So they start, they're just kissing. They're not even like really doing anything. But he had started to try to open her shirt. And so all of a sudden the door's open and Harry walks in. He goes, the door works, so I don't know why. And he's like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I think every fic should have Harry walking in on them.
Yes.
Just once. Like,
it's so funny.
It's so good. So yeah. She's like, Harry, I thought you were at Mungo's. He's like, false alarm. Healer sent us home. Ginny told me to come see if you were free yet. And Harry's like, just go home before you go any further, okay? I don't want to do any more paperwork. And like, so they go, and he's like, okay, your place or mine. And then that's the end of it. And then it goes to the epilogue.
And the epilogue is cute.
I was gonna say, I have no idea. Did it say how many years it jumped?
7.
I think it said 7, yeah.
Okay. Good. 7 years. They're married. They have kids.
Yep.
Like, oh, it's
cute. It is really cute.
He's Daddy Draco. He's like giving him a bath with glitter, bubbles, and everything.
And he has to talk Hermione into it. And she's like, no, not a mess. Do not make a mess. And he's like, well, only this color of bubbles, only a little bit of glitter, only all of these different things that he's talking about. And she's like,
fine, you're in charge though. I'm not doing it. He's like, okay.
Yep.
Like, just goes and like gives the kids baths. And so she like goes and joins him, sees that the kids are like, being kids and putting bubble beards and hats on and stuff.
Cute.
And Draco's like soaked from head to toe.
Yep.
And I laughed at this. She goes, she silently mourned that he was wearing a black t-shirt instead of his usual white button down. Like, me too. I would be mad too. Like, oh. Yeah, so they're like, this was a cute little like parenting moment. They each take a kid, go get them ready for bed. They're all in bed together. They start reading a book. And I thought it was cute that, I'm imagining it as like Hermione, like Hermione's got both kids like on one side of her because if she's holding the book. So yeah, see, and then Draco's like on the other side. So he like reaches over and is like playing with her hair. It's so cute. They put the kids to bed and he's asking about like what the book's about. And she still picks Muggle books, that Muggle bedtime stories that she tells her children.
Yep.
Yeah.
Doesn't she read Anne of Green Gables?
Yeah.
Is that what she reads?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, he didn't like The Hobbit, so she decided to do Anne of Green Gables. And like, okay.
I know.
Excuse me.
That is so undraco-like. Are you kidding?
God.
I'm kidding. I am kidding.
Well, to me it is, so.
But yeah, just then like the last couple little, paragraphs. So he's like, how tired are you? She's like, you can use my name, and he's like, okay, Granger.
Because he keeps calling her wife.
Yeah, I would too. He's like, okay, Granger, like, are you too tired for me to fuck you tonight? And she's like, you were the one who decided to give 2 children a bath tonight. Are you too tired to fuck me? And he's like, never. I've always got time for you. Always. And then that's where it ends. Like, oh my gosh, it's so cute.
It is. It's adorable.
It's just so cute.
Mm-hmm. It was perfect.
Like you
now
said.
I feel like I need to go back and read those one-shots that I didn't read.
I know, same.
It's like, whoops. Go back.
It was good. I do really like this work. It was only 35,000 words, but you feel like you got a 100,000 word story. Like there was plot, there was smut, there was angst, there was happy little feel good moments, there was bantering and bickering. Like it just was such a very well written story.
Yep. Definitely fast paced without missing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, that it feels a little too fast. No, this was super well rounded.
It was.
So, like it gave
perfect.
Gave a good timeline. So.
Like you had a good amount of depth with it.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. So anyways, that's it for this fic. What's everybody reading? What's everybody up to?
I'm listening to Crescent City for the first
time. Finally.
Yep. It's happening.
It's happening.
Slowly but surely.
What chapter are you on?
19.
Okay.
I think I'm on like 19.
I'm excited for this journey for you.
Good. 21. Chapter 21.
Oh, so a little further. That's good.
Yep.
So, this realizes we do need to get reactions, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Like we do need. I was already robbed of your reaction of like after like chapter 5.
Oh, sorry.
I know. I couldn't believe that. I'm like, she didn't even tell us that she got to that point. Do you remember the Marco Polo I sent you?
Oh yeah.
Ben remembers that Marco Polo because he was sitting on the couch next to me. I had sent her a message and I was like, look, I'm starting like Crescent City. Like, how cute. And like, I even was like, oh, like, she's going to start dating like Connor. Like, isn't that
He's so cute. He's so
And then
sweet.
the next message, I'm like, you bitches. I'm like,
Is that what chapter 5 was? Is when you find out about all that? Okay. I'm going farther in my head and I'm thinking about Hunt and I'm going, what was it that happened? That was so crazy.
Ben
I didn't say anything.
No.
All of a
Oh.
sudden you're like,
I think,
I read it.
I
He's
think
gone.
that's when I
Chapter
got
7.
on. I think that's when I did talk about it, I was like, oh, it's getting good because that had just happened. And I'm like, oh, it's getting good. I knew that I didn't know about, what happened, but there was like the flirtatiousness with Connor, and all that. And I'm like, well, it's not going to be Connor that she ends up with. And I'm like, I bet he dies. So I'm like, oh, look at that.
Oh my gosh. It was such a shock.
I'll make sure I record. I'll record my reactions.
There's some other things that I need to know.
If I have some thoughts, I will put them out there.
I am a little sad that you didn't get the like Hunt, or not the Hunt, the Connor reveal, like the Connor dying, everyone dying in chapter 5, because
sorry, it was
like,
it was the beginning of the book, so I thought.
Well, it's not your fault because we talk about Hunt all the time.
Yeah,
I love him.
So I'm like, oh, these people weren't important other than Danica was her best friend, and I'm like,
Rowan
that's
and Hunt
really
are like
sad.
neck and neck, baby. Like, oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, they are who I choose.
Good.
Anyways, do you want to go next, Tracy?
Sure. Sorry. What?
No.
Of course I have not finished Two Twisted Crowns, because when I finish it, that means it's over and I won't have any more of it to read. So I have not picked it up, but what I have been reading, I've been rereading Remain Nameless.
Oh.
I know, how weird. I don't know why. I just kind of started picking it up and I'm already on chapter like 22.
Nice.
In like 4 days. I'm like,
are you reading it or are you listening to it?
I'm reading it.
Nice.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, I remember why I love this. And so I've just been reading that.
It's fabulous.
And I need to read physical books, but alas, Remain Nameless has my heart. So
yep.
That's it.
It's very good.
What about you, Carrie Ann? Oh God.
Listen up. Okay. I can't get out of this phase. I don't know what it is. I do not know what brought it on, but I cannot stop with monster smut. Specifically alien. Okay. I found it specific a little bit. I tried to open like a mermaid, kraken, like an underwater one. It did not hit the itch like the aliens are. So on that note, I finished the war Faded to the Sea Sand Warriors. It's like the alien tyrants.
Oh, yeah.
I finished that entire series. 15 books.
Wow.
Within like 10
my
days.
Goodness.
Like, I don't know. I finished it pretty quickly. And I reread a bunch of Ice Planet Barbarians in between that and like other Ruby Dixon stuff because she writes a lot of alien stuff, so it just kind of fits that's what I've been reading. I'm trying. There's a book. I read the first one. The second one came out pretty recently, and he is like elven. So I'm hoping that it's close enough to like that vibe that it's. So I'm going to try it. I haven't started it yet because I couldn't really remember what happened, like the ending of the first one. So I had to go back and reread that. And it is August, which means that Goldfinch, the last book of the Plated Prisoner series, is coming out this month. So I am needing to reread all of those so I can be ready.
It's like this is the end.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
well.
yeah, the last book, Gold, was supposed to be the end, but she wrote, it was like an Instagram post. She wrote, like, I actually had too much I wanted to put into this, and I didn't want to, like, miss anything or rush anything. So I split it. She's like, I'm sorry that technically it's not over yet, but you get another book. I'm so excited. And she switched publishers. So it's a new look. And the last book looks so fucking pretty that I want to buy all of them all at once. Oh, I'm so excited. So anyways.
Nice. I gotta give that another shot.
Oh my God. I love them. I recommend them. 10 out of 10. And then as far as like Hermione's, I've been reading a shit ton of one-shots because I just do. I don't have control. And there's one that I found on TikTok of Hermione. It's not a one-shot. It's only 10 chapters though, 62,000 words. Bad Books and Second Looks. I don't know if you guys have heard of that.
Yes, I just the Hermione archives are recording that right now and putting it on Spotify. I think they might have just finished or they're almost finished.
Nice.
So it's on, yeah, you can listen to it.
See? Get out there.
I'm like, I know that title.
I would say, yeah, it literally, like, the tags are just like steamy romance novels, romance, fluff, misunderstandings. Ron is wonderful. No Ron bashing. And I don't love those tags as much, but that's just a personal preference of Carrie Ann. So I'm excited to like see, but this one I found specifically because it said like the friendship between Ginny, Pansy, and Hermione was like top tier. So that's why I was like, oh, I want to read that. I love when like the three of them are friends. So
and we don't get it a lot. So
yeah.
I do like Ginny, Pansy friendships.
Side note.
Yep.
I read a one-shot last night where Ron and Theo were together. And that is the first time that I've ever seen that. And I hated it. I hated it. I think I hated it more than I hated Ron and Harry.
Ron is just not gay. He's not queer. He is straight as a fucking arrow.
So you cannot. It's really, really funny because I said the same thing and then I started reading this stupid fic Carrie Ann and I have other thoughts.
Oh no.
See, I don't mind Ron and Harry in that one.
I know. And that's I'm understanding it now.
But
I'm understanding it and I'm going.
I read so good. Like, I don't like that at all. So anyways, yeah. Random little side pairing that I wasn't a huge fan of.
That's so funny.
How it's like written and things. There was it was a one shot and they were like a side character pairing. So like there was no explanation given for them.
Okay.
It was just they were together.
Yeah, it was like mentioned that they were together and I was like, oh no. It was very weird for a moment. But anyways, on that note, should we talk about what we're reading next?
Yeah.
Because I'm so fucking excited. So,
I'm not.
I know. I'm so sorry. So
I struggled when I started it.
This is a fic that actually was recently completed last month. And if you are on TikTok, if you're on the Hermione TikTok, I'll put it that way, you have probably seen at least one post about it. And I have even talked about it in the past. I will not stop raving about this. It is beautiful. It's heartbreaking, but it's beautiful. Like it's so hard to explain. Like explain it.
It really is.
It is so well written. It is such a beautiful story, and it tears you apart in the best way. So be prepared. Our next one is going to be "I Will Make You Proud" by Where Does She Go? It's all one word. Like there's no spaces in between. No what's that? Underscores. So if you're looking for that, just Where Does She Go? I Will Make You Proud.
I cried a lot of tears in the beginning. I'm about halfway through right now. I have written so many notes for this already.
It's so good.
Oh my word.
I'm so excited to read it for a second time to see what I missed.
Right.
Because I have a feeling that I missed so much.
I'm actually shocked with how good it is. Not saying that, oh, I was expecting it to be bad or anything, but some of the stuff that you had mentioned when you were first reading it, Carrie Ann, I was like, I don't want to read that. I don't want to read that.
I don't want to read that.
No. And now I'm like,
which is so funny because I did when I read this, I sent you guys all of those
Yep.
the messages, and you, I think Holly, you were the one that said it the most. You're like, I don't think I'm ever gonna read that.
Yep. That's exactly what I said.
I'm
And then
making
when
you
you were
guys
like,
read it now.
you were like, we should put this on our list to read. And I was like, no. And I'm pretty sure that was the one Tracy was like, Holly, you have to share the list. To put everything on there you want. And I'm like, I know.
Oh, it's so good. So anyways,
That's funny.
that's what we're reading.
Hermione Fanfic Fanatics is a fan podcast that discusses and reviews fan fiction written by various authors based on the characters Hermione Granger and Draco Malfoy from the Harry Potter series, created and owned by J.K. Rowling. We do not own the rights to the Harry Potter series, its characters, or any of the fan fiction works mentioned in this podcast. The purpose of our podcast is to provide commentary, analysis, and entertainment related to the fan fiction community and to foster a sense of community among fans. We respect the creative efforts of fanfiction authors and consider their works as transformative interpretations of the original source material. All fanfiction works discussed on this podcast are the intellectual property of their respective authors. We aim to provide proper attribution and promote the fanfiction community by linking the author's original works where possible. This podcast is created for entertainment purposes and is not intended to infringe upon the rights of the copyright holders. If you are the author of a fanfiction work discussed on this podcast and would like us to remove or modify our content related to your work, please contact us and we will promptly address your request. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge and agree to the terms of this disclaimer.